So as y'all know, the topic for today's millennials don't listen. I think it's helpful to give a bit of a context and backstory of who we are and kind of like why we even landed here. You just speak a little bit about that, but yeah, if you could talk about our backstory of like how we even landed here. You kind of went into it though, so if you'd like to continue.
Ooh, I think we went into it. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My Bluetooth must have died on me. I'm gonna keep it in. I think we went into it not intentionally, but accidentally fell into it because we've had our own set of issues about the way in which I was raised. Your parents said something, you did it, you act, and that's it, just like that. But knowing that when I grew up, that they had this saying, "Do as I say and do it now," and they gave you that look. And so moving through that, I knew that I wanted different when I raised my child,
Mm. That's
and that's you. But not on purpose. I did see some qualities that I was beginning to bring into my parenting. And I grabbed myself and say, no, this is not what you want for your child. Right. So I was able to pivot, and then you became an adult.
all of a sudden I'm just grown all of a sudden.
And what I've learned in adulting an adult child is
Mm.
you have to do it a little bit differently. Yes, you will always have the title as parent. You would always have that title. But this is also a human being and an adult. So you have to move differently. You have to speak differently. Whereas we didn't get that opportunity. Millennials are more in tuned with their wellness, with their mental health. They put those things first, a lot of them. Um, Eating, respecting boundaries. My time is my time. I don't owe you all my time. Where I come from a generation that when your job called you any hour, any time, you kind of responded. But y'all are saying, no, I'm off the clock, sir. You don't email me, you don't call me. So, so that's what your generation is saying. And y'all are good at making boundaries. I do believe we can learn from each other. Y'all are more tech savvy. Y'all coming out the womb now knowing tech. You know, the next generation is coming out of the womb knowing technology like that. They're going 2-year-old know how to work a tablet better than me. So, so in that being said, I had to pivot the way I had to listen. We weren't taught to listen as a parent and hear
Mm.
the words that you're saying. We were just taught you're a parent, you tell your child what to do, that's it. But at the end of the day, you are an adult child, which makes a difference. And therefore, you still have feelings, you still have your own everything. So therefore, we have to treat you different. And what I found with us, and I think we've shared a little bit of our story before, was once I listened without judgment to what
Mm.
you had to say, I listened openly to you express your feelings. And I had to learn that your expression of your feelings may not necessarily be the truth. It may not necessarily been my intent, but I don't get to tell you that that's not how you feel. So in doing that, it required me to do a lot of listening and the ugly truth of you expressing your truth. And And so there we learned a way to communicate. We sat down, we had little worksheets, we talked about different things, and that's how we kind of got through it, you know. And even it's not something that happens overnight because, you know, I have to let go some of more of that parenting even still today. There's things old-fashioned ways like we were talking the other day, and I did an interview with an older couple that been married for 66 years, bless them. And in the interview, I remember the lady saying how when she was growing up, since I didn't say her name, I can say her age. She's 93 years old, and she was saying when she was growing up, how her and her siblings didn't wash the dishes one night, and their parent woke them up, and that was a time where you had to, in order to get hot water, you had to put the wood in the oven in the little, I guess it's the furnace. I guess it's the furnace. You had to put the wood in there to get the hot water. So she shared that story, and she also shared, she said, because when I was growing up, you did not leave dishes in the sink. And I was like, yeah. So I came home and I shared that story with you. And what did you say?
I asked you to help me with the dishes.
You did ask me to help you with the
I asked
dishes.
you to help me with the dishes.
But that's a long time thing, of generations. You didn't leave dishes in the sink, you
Yeah.
know. So stuff like that, those little tad bit of things you just didn't do. And so it's funny that, it went all the way back there, and and I was happy to come home and share that particular story with you.
I know how
Um,
you feel about the dishes, and
huh?
because I know how you feel about the dishes. It's different when you live on your own and then you move back in with a parent, and it's just like the world will not explode if the dishes are in the sink. And I also understand how important it is to you to have the dishes done and how that makes you feel in your home. So I try to do it as much as I can, but I also don't beat myself up if I can't get it done. But also we have a good system. Like if you cook, I'll wash it. Or if you or we have a good system. We go back and forth. And then sometimes we both look at each other and we're both like, because sometimes you'll be like, I'm sorry, I know there's dishes in the sink. And there'll be days where I'm like, I'm sorry, I know there's dishes in the sink. And we both have those moments of grace for each other. We've both come a long way with the dishes in the sink. We both come a long way with the dishes. And I understand how important it is to you for them to not be in the sink. And I
But
hope
yeah,
when I'm in my home,
huh?
nothing.
That's the same thing with like making your bed. Remember, you was like, make my bed. Why I gotta make my bed? I'm just gonna get back in it. Like,
Literally, literally,
but
literally.
to understand now,
Yeah, yeah.
that it's just those little things. Our parents are very strict in telling us what to do, and that's exactly what they've done. They told us what to do. And we just listened. We didn't give too much resistance as your generation today gives a lot of resistance and wanting to understand why do we need to do that. And I have a hard time with that sometimes, but I was a why child. Wh- But why do I have to do it? I was there and I got plenty of beatings because I was a why child. I needed to know. Don't tell me to do it just because I said so. So I tried to give an explanation, but it doesn't always work.
Mhm.
It doesn't always work, and sometimes it's just like, I don't feel like giving an explanation right now. Just do it, and I'll explain later.
Yeah.
So you might have been having a bad day or something like that. So, we've come a long way with, learning to communicate with each other.
Mhm.
The generations, how we have a conversation. And something that I also find that the more time we spend together and the different things that we do together, the bonding, the playing games, um, those type of things, it helps as well. I remember I was hanging out with this guy one time, and we had some tension between us. Okay, so for the record, I don't play pool. My brother's gonna love this. I don't know how to play pool. I know there's a stick, a ball, and you're supposed to hit it. That's all I know. So there was, a little bit of friction between me and a young man, and we played pool over our conversation. So that was a good stress reliever. Like, we in the ball talking, boom, and you said, and boom, and you did. And it was really, really good. So finding creative ways to communicate. You could communicate over painting and games and just so many different ways to communicate. And I think that through the generations, we was just do as I say. But if we find creative ways to communicate, to get along, and that's with anything, whether it's personal or business, just finding better ways to communicate because we all have a different mindset. We all have different expectations and our perceptions are different.
Mhm.
To jump in?
Yeah, and capacity is different. Also, I like everyone to know millennials don't listen, but I just sat there at length and listened to what millennials don't listen.
Don't
Uh,
worry, Twitter, like,
millennials don't listen though. No, but you named so many amazing things. And what you just talked about, like, we come to understand each other as humans because, like, to go back to our backstory a little bit, I never felt like I couldn't ask you why. Did you always explain yourself? Oh, you didn't always explain yourself, but you are tired. You are a grown woman with bills, a home, taking care of yourself, moving through your mental health, moving through your spiritual health, and you have a whole other human being that you're taking care of. Of course, you didn't always have the resources and the energy and capacity to explain everything. Didn't know that now, but I didn't know that then, but I know that now.
thanks
So,
for
but
good morning.
good morning. Hello, Pierre. Good morning. But you gave me information when it counted, or you supplied me with information before I needed to act. Like, especially for the important things in life. Something. Financial literacy, mm, I had to learn that on my own. But like life skills, taking care of myself, feeding myself, street smart, getting to school. It's okay. Do you just stay for it today? Write it down. Write it down. You write it down so you can not forget your point. And what's our safe word for today? Blue? Okay. Oh, okay, you went out a little bit.
Blue.
Okay, that was a sign from God telling you to and it's okay, I'm interested to know what came up for you when I said that. But, um, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? But when it mattered, you did what you never really shut me out. And also, I was just a curious child anyway, and I was also kinda independent. I'm a self-starter anyway, so I naturally sought information outside of you. Like, I was an avid reader, I was always reading, things like that. So, um, but, so we had our things that we were outside of like, I was an avid reader, I was always reading, things like that. She trying to record the screen even though I've told her several times that I could just send her the video, but it's fine. Um,
I just wanted to see you a little bit clearer. I can see you better
Gen
on the screen.
Gen Xers oh, okay, okay, okay. Anyway, but, so like, what does it mean to talk to a parent? Growing up, school was important. I know school really mattered to you. So I felt like if I wasn't doing right in school, then I wasn't doing right by you. Like, because that's how I identified what it means to receive love and care. Because when I did well in school, that's where the accolade came from. So I felt like school was like the thing that I had to do very well. And, you know, you were going through your own thing. So communication, the way we communicate now is so different. Like, I know you as a human being. And during the pandemic, I was experiencing a lot of anger and I was experiencing a lot of resentment. And I've learned that it wasn't necessarily towards you, but I think it's a necessary anger and resentment that happens when people are learning to reparent themselves. Because there's a time in your life where you live for you and you have to accept the responsibility of what it means to be responsible for yourself. And that's what I think reparenting is. And so in that, I just a lot of anger and resentment came up about like my childhood and, experiences I had, ways I had been raised. But you literally were doing your best to give me the skill that I needed. Because, you may say I don't listen, but one thing I know how to do is take care of my household. One thing I know is community care. One thing I know is to be considerate. One thing I know is integrity and honesty is important. One thing I know, education and knowledge is something that you should always seek, always be curious, always ask, always speak up, you know? So there's a lot of things you instilled in me that are core to who I am. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, and all the things that I am are all the things you are. So I don't know if it's that millennials don't listen, but I think what it is that sometimes there is resistance with agency and autonomy and awareness. Because, like you said, now I'm an adult and I've spent the last decade or so navigating through the world without someone in my ear telling me, do this, do this, do that. Up until pretty much high school, up until college, it's like, this is the world. You do A plus B plus C, da 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 da. You didn't get a manual to be a parent, and nobody gives you a manual to be an adult. So you have to figure all that stuff out. So it's not that we're not listening. It's not that I'm not listening. It's that there's nothing really outside of the values. Be honest, be caring, give back to your community, be of use in your community. Like, think of things bigger than yourself. Outside of those things in 2025, I don't really know what can really be said of how to navigate this world with AI. Y'all ain't had AI coming up. Like, college, what it meant to get a degree for social mobility, the goalposts have been moved 3,000 times since y'all have been coming up. So it's not that we're not listening. It's like we're figuring it out just the same while also keeping our mental health intact, while also keeping our relationships intact, while also making sure our finances are making sense, while also trying to dream, while also trying to be joyful, while also like trying to take care of ourselves. So it's just we're navigating so much. And nobody has given us a manual for any of these things. So it's not that we're not listening. I always hear you. I always consider you. And what I tell you all the time, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, I always hear you in the back of my mind. Like, you have instilled so much in me. So you're still there. You are one of the voices in my head that I have to consider always. I got a lot of voices in my head. There's anxiety, there's fear in there, you're in there, source is in there, the ancestors is in there, my inner child is in there, so it's not that we're not listening, but it's a completely different world. And we also have to stay true to ourselves so that when we die, we lived for ourselves. Because I think that's something that I wanted to ask you is that, like, you know, I've, for some reason, grown folk love me, and I do often become friends of different people of different generations, and they often are like, "Wow, you were so self-aware at 20 or 30 or whatever." They were like, "I wish I would have known that," and I'm in my 50s. I'm in my 60s. And I'm wanting to know, like, what is the impact of coming up under a generation that told you what to do, which didn't give you space for you to know to know who you are? Like, what was the impact of that?
The impact of that was today, a lot of us are still trying to figure it out. Um, we're trying to figure out communications because going through the things that I've been through in my life, I'm like, dang, I could have probably handled that better had I had known how to communicate better.
Mm.
Instead of having temper tantrums or anger issues, I was just what I saw was you just yell and get your point across. Um,
Mm.
but now I know that I can say whatever I need to say, whisper voice, and I can still get my point across. Did you hear me?
And that's driving me the loudest. When you start whispering, when you get low, I'll be like, "Oh shit, she was really big."
It's the whisper and it's the saying nothing that gets
Yeah,
it.
it's the energy. When you don't say nothing, and then when you just give a look, you said everything you needed to say. Trust me, I
it
use it all the time
I
when I'm
had to
disappointed.
I had to learn to communicate a lot better. And it also comes with I don't believe when I was growing up, we had the seek everything from yourself. I think I
Mm,
came from a generation, you looked outward for everything. So looking outward, you never had a chance to look inward. And all of what you need is really in here, so spending so much time looking outward, looking for validation from others, looking for that rah, 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 that cheer from others, looking for you did a good job, them pats on the back. I felt like that's what we were taught, your worth was surrounded by someone saying you did a good job. But
mm,
no, my worth is there regardless of whether you say I did a good job or not. So relearning those type of things or learning those type of things and being in support groups around people that spoke like that. Excuse me, doing a lot of reading and research because I'm like, it has to be more to this. I'm always that one person that believes that there's more to everything. There's more to life. So I question everything. And I'm okay, so but that don't make no sense. So when I started to be like, I was always a curious child. So I was just like, so I need to know. So from a young age, I was picking up books, but guess what? I
mm,
was picking up the right type of books.
mm,
You understand what I'm saying? So I wasn't picking up the right type of books. So after reading like a lot of Egyptian mythology books and stuff like that, it made me say, it made me question a lot of things.
mm.
And question, that's what made me start reading a lot of self-care, self-love, self-help type of books.
You got that Ayana Van Zandt book on the library right now.
Yeah, she did it for me. That Viola Valley, oh my goodness. It like set me straight because and in fact, when I read that book, I think you probably was either 1 or 2, and then I was going through my own issues. So that book in itself made me question my way of thinking. 'Cause I'm like, "Ooh," like self-infliction, things that we do to ourselves, the expectations that we set for others,
Mm,
which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, like, I set an expectation for another human being. I didn't even ask that human being for permission. So, now when the human being doesn't show up, I'm mad, I'm in my feelings. So, how about let's stop setting expectations for others, and you are my child, you're my dog. So the expectations factor, it's still there. It's it's still there, but I'm not vocal about it. I accept that internally.
yeah.
And I just be like, and I start looking around, look, be quiet, don't say nothing, leave it alone. That's your expectation. You want her to do that. She may not want to do that, but you want her to do that. So I can't be mad at you, and that was one of the biggest things I had to learn is the expectations that I set. For example, when you came back and told me you wasn't finishing college, that was the worst thing you could have said. But then, may he rest in peace, my buddy, he said, "Arlene, how finishing school, how's that gonna affect you?" And I really didn't, and he asked me a few other harsh questions in the moment, and I really didn't have an answer. But he said, "I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about her." And every time came out, what the words that came out of my mouth was, "But I didn't finish college and I didn't get my degree by," and he said, "But I'm not talking about you." And it clicked on me like those are the expectations I set for you. So because you're not choosing to do the thing that I expected you to do, doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're wrong, because at the end of the day, you have to navigate.
Mm, yeah.
Every time I'm on live, somebody calls. at the end of the so I've learned to
Exactly.
twist and turn my head because that's all I'm gonna do is twist and turn my head and let you do what you would like to do. I'm always gonna advise as a parent. I'm always gonna advise, but at the end of the day, you're doing a decision making. If you, I've learned, let you come ask me. Don't inject my thoughts. Let you just come ask me if you want help. You will ask. I mean, I'll be over there, but I have to let you come ask me for help in the way in which you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also this other understanding. Yeah, like you said, there's a delayed reaction. We don't listen. But also I think everything you know now, you had to experience. And you can
Yeah,
only speak from the wisdom from the experience. And you probably experienced it not once, not twice, not three times, but four times. Whether it's your finances, your health, relationship, like interpersonal relationships, whether it's romantic, family, like every ounce of wisdom you have is something you've experienced. And it's again, not that I'm not listening. I just don't have that reference point yet. I don't know what you've already passed the threshold. You passed the threshold several times, and you've seen other people pass the threshold several times. So what is innate to you, and what is common sense to you, and what is like, what are you doing to you? You have that, and so me not necessarily not listening is me saying I don't have that information yet. Like I haven't had that experience to even know what you're talking about, and so it doesn't mean anything to me. And I think that's how agency is built. Like having that reference point several times over to know, like, okay, I've only been here 30 something years. There's but so much I've yet to experience, and there's so much more I'm going to experience. And so, I don't know. I just feel like our ability to see each other as humans has really helped our communication and just like getting to know each other. And you hear me out. Like you really true. You listen to me. You ask. You're curious. I find that I'd be like, "Mom, I need a friend," or "Mom, I need a mom." Like, you're so good at, like, towing the line of when to be a parent, when to be a mom. We're both not perfect. We're not perfect in our communication, but I would say I'm just so grateful for the grace that you give me when you do listen. I literally can tell you anything. Literally. Like, and that is such a beautiful place to be because I know that's not something that everybody has, which is something I didn't know. I also didn't know that. I didn't know that people weren't talking to their parents about sex. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I getting into the nitty gritty details with you? No. But I talk to you about sex. Like, I talk to you about, like, oh, this is how the world works with attraction and relationships. Or we talk about conspiracy theories. We talk about, like, we talk about your art and like what excites you about life and like, you talk to me about your fears, you talk to me about things you experienced that you didn't particularly like. And you share as much. So I really my intention always with that communication is that you see and notice the ways in which I do listen and I do comprehend and I do act on as opposed to the things that I'm not necessarily acting on. And it's not because I'm being resistant. It may not have the capacity. We're two different people. We have two different capacities. You can go all day on 2 hours of sleep. I need to sleep a little longer. I have to go a little slower. We have two different capacities. So again, is it that we're not listening or is it that we're just two different human beings with two different capacities, and that we're in the house during the day, but we are in two completely different realities, you know? I could have just got a text of someone saying, "Hey, I never want to talk to you again," and that ruins me. And you could just be there like, "Oh, I just got a promotion." Like, and I think that's something that grace should be extended to everyone, not just parents, your partners, the people you're in community with, the people you go to school with, the people you go to work with. Everybody's living a different reality. Everyone has a different capacity. Everybody has a different reference point. Everyone has a different guidebook or manual book of what makes sense. And even within that, like, I'm a very intuitive person. I pray, I talk to my guides, I've talked to source. But even yet and still, there's still so much I'm deciphering. Thor still isn't coming saying A plus B plus C. I'm still figuring it out. So, like, every single person is figuring it out. We're all getting it wrong, and we're all getting it right. And we're all somewhere in between, and that's beautiful.
But I also think, like, in terms of, communication, I also think that social media is playing its role and its part on how we communicate, and I well, you can never say what the intentions were, because I would
Mhm.
like the intentions is probably to increase communications, but, I'm not the person behind that tool, so I don't know what the intentions were. It could be a number of things. It could be that we communicate across the world with different peoples that we'll never be in touch with or we'll never go to that country, so it brings us closer, but yet and still we're so much further away because while we're communicating with people worldwide, we're not communicating effectively here in our own country. Um, it seems to me communication is getting terrible. And I don't know, I can't say who's the cause of it, that communication is going the opposite way. If I'm waking up in the morning and I'm sending you a message, but you're on social media, and I'm like, but why can't you just respond if you're on social media? So you see a lot of that, and you see like, okay, so we have to learn to communicate through social media. You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we have to learn to communicate differently through social media now. So the changes of changing into a digital society and how we communicate, that's also gonna change. Um, yeah, that's gonna uh-oh, did I disappear again?
No, you're
That's
here.
that's also gonna change. So, like I always tell people on social media, they be like, "Oh, social media is so bad." I believe it's the way you use it, what you look at. If I see something I don't wanna see, I immediately kick it off on my algorithm
Yeah. No.
to
Thor
keep my peace. You know, protecting your peace is everything, and I want you to protect your peace as well. I wanna protect my peace. But, like, even the other day, a lady kept saying something, and she could have ruined my attitude at this event, but I had to think of a bigger picture. Who am I here for? And once I thought it clicked, but this lady was really rubbing me the wrong way, and I felt like she got one more time to say something to me, and I felt it coming out of me like, "She got one." No, that's not what you're here for. Stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. Don't let her disrupt your peace, and I had to take myself there. Don't let her disrupt your peace, you know? And then I was, standing in line for food, and guess who was in front of me? So it's like that, but we are responsible for protecting our peace at all costs, and it's okay that you protect your peace. Um, but in protecting your peace, sometimes communicating, and this is something we've learned to do as well. When we're not there or not in a good mood, low vibration, we've learned to say, okay, not right now. We can come back to it. We make appointments to have conversations so that we could be better prepared. So that's
Mm.
something we do very good. Like, okay, I'll put you on the calendar. Okay, mom, I'm gonna send you a calendar notification, and we set our intentions for the conversation. This way, there's no one blindsided at the conversation, and I think that's important. Like, we're coming, so we already know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
For
I'm
the
not
big
gonna get you in a meeting and ask you some more crazy questions that I know is gonna upset you. I know it's gonna trigger your moods. So, mhm.
Yeah. We definitely make space for the big conversation. Day to day, we're still working on it. Some days I wake up, I'm tired. Sometimes I don't have the capacity to say right not right now, or We're not perfect. We're definitely I don't want anybody to think that we're perfect. Cause listen, one thing about this lady right here, she won't eat, and if she don't eat, it's crazy. So we're not perfect. Don't get on here and we all being diplomatic. Like, no, we are not perfect at all. But I think I really wish we could do another part of the conversation. 'Cause I feel like so many things have come up. This might be a little too harder. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think you named something really important in the beginning of because also every millennial is not like this. There's someone in my generation right now still living for their parents who can't, you know what I'm saying? Also, because it's culturally, it's like I'm okay. I'm living in America. I'm a Black person in America who is currently freelancing. So, based on my economic, based on culturally, I'm queer. Like, so the way I move through the world is a lot different because there's someone culturally in, let's say, Morocco. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a completely different cultural understanding of what it means to be a millennial and what it means to listen to parents. But I can't speak to the experience. I can speak to the American experience. And from the American experience, I think for me being a millennial, I think us telling that boss after 5 o'clock, don't text my phone is important because we understand that there's such a culture of exploitation here. And if you are coming from a generation where your parents are like, do as I say, not as I do, and then you have a boss talking about do as I say, not as I do, and everybody doing as I say, not as I do, when does anyone get to know each other? When does anyone have a chance for agency? And we have to be very clear about understanding what does that look like. Like, do y'all see any y'all see any slaves around here? Do y'all see any slaves around? I don't, outside of like policy wise and what our government is trying to do. But I think it's really important I'm not mad to get the rep that we don't listen because I think it's really important to challenge and disrupt status quo norms that keep us all exploited, that keep us all tired, that keep us all from not knowing each other, that keeps us from seeking external validation. Because if you continue to seek that external validation, you lose yourself. You lose that joy of life. You lose the ways that you're an artist. You lose the way in how you can show up and actually make this world a better place. So I'm not mad that millennials get that rep, that we're disruptive. Because this, I was gonna curse. This stuff really needs to be disrupted, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad that we get that rep because we got to get rid of some of this toxic workplace culture. We have to get rid of some of these toxic gender norms. Some of these toxic socioeconomic things that say like, oh, if you're a certain class, you deserve this type of care. Like all of that stuff deserves to be disrupted. If millennials get the rep that we don't listen, then I think we're doing something right. I think we're doing something right. So we're trying to make we're not trying anything, but I think just as the world works, as time works, as things go on, being oppressed people is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. As long as there are people to oppress, there's going to be people who resist. That's just life. That's just how it's gonna have to be. So yeah. But that's my 2 cents. That's all I gotta say about millennials don't listen.
But I did do a little bit of research, not hardcore, just surface research, and I asked about millenniums in other cultures. And I did share that other cultures are having um, the same type of resistance from their children, especially with dealing with, the social medias and stuff like that. So it is kind of across the board, but I think in other cultures they have they have a more strict upbringing, as well as sometimes they're not always exposed to the way in which American children.
America is like this is its own little world.
Yeah, so because they kinda are cut off from the world and their TV watching and all of that stuff is limited, they can try to get a better control. They could try to keep a control, but they are still experiencing, uh, the same barriers of communication challenges that we are. And I've talked to several people of different ethnic backgrounds, and they are saying the same thing about their children as well. So I was like, oh, really?
Great.
I remember I was walking in the park and this lady just told me her son's whole story, how he's 30, he moved back in, she told him not to do it, he did it anyway, now he's back home. I mean, and I was like, "How did this?" I don't even know how the conversation even started, but she just needed someone to talk to that day. She needed somebody to talk to, and she saw me, and she just went in for her. So, um, yeah, everyone's experiencing it. I just think that we just need to find a way to better communicate with um with your generation. I think we've done a good job at keeping it at bay. Every now and again, my old fashioned thinking pops out, and then I catch myself.
Yes, it's your conditioning and it's your programming. And the people who raised you are a lot closer to slavery than we are. So you have to think about where that conditioning is coming from. Professionalism. Ladies look like this, women dress like that, men do this, like these really strict norms for everybody. Low key. Well, okay, so you got the petticoat and the gloves, and y'all look good at church, but he beating you at home, but you can't say nothing about it. You can't have a bank account. But you look good, you look great, but he beating you at the house and no one could talk about it? Your uncle putting your hands on you and no one could talk about it? But y'all worried about what you look like at work and what you look like at church and what you look like at school? So when I show up and I dress how I dress is not in line with my ability to show up and do my job. So that's when millennials are saying, what does professionalism mean? Professionalism means Black people show up, suit and tie, don't speak, don't talk, tell you what I do. Do y'all see?
I felt like I done struck the nerve. What? Hello? Did you take a breath? Are you breathing? What?
I know, but that's the type of thing. So it's not even we're resisting you. I'm not resisting you. I'm resisting conditioning and programming that says be quiet, look a certain way, act a certain way, and you may get a little piece of the pie, knowing that the piece of the pie they want to give you is a crumb. Meanwhile, they got the whole pie in their hand. And you know what I'm saying? So, like, and when we say they, I'm talking about stakeholders. I'm talking about major CEOs who own these companies and corporations who got millions of dollars and don't want to pay their workers. That's who I'm talking about when I say I'm talking about people who make policy. That's who I'm talking about when I say they. And they could be white. They could be a global leader because I don't think it's just American based. I think it's a global thing. So when millennials don't listen or when this millennial doesn't listen, it's not that I don't consider you. It's not that I don't respect you. It's that there's a way in you that is not yours, that doesn't
Mm,
even serve you. And I'm saying I no longer want us to both not be living the life that we deserve. So it's
amen.
never you. It's never you. Like you are technically being a gatekeeper. You know what I'm saying? Like when you do that, and I think that's why I don't say there's a gap. I don't think there's a gap. We in the same, like, you're in a different place in your life, but we're here together. I get to have these conversations with you. And as long as I think you're my enemy because you're my mom, and if I don't recognize that it's the conditioning in you, then that's where the gap persists. It's never you, because I get to talk to you. You know who I don't get to talk to? I don't get to talk to policymakers. I don't get to talk to stakeholders. I don't get to talk to CEOs. I don't get to talk to global leaders. But I get to talk to you. And as long as I have an issue with you because you're a man, because you're queer, because you are a parent who doesn't want to honor the agencies of a child, we're going to continue. That's how the programming conditioning continues to, you know what I'm saying? So it's never I'm resisting you. I'm resisting the programming. I'm still.
And there's nothing else that needs to be said.
Okay. Well, this was a great conversation. We will see you all in the next one.
I'll sip to that. Whoo!
Cheers. We can do our little cheers. What are you drinking today?
I have no clue.
I didn't even tell you what you're drinking. I'm sorry. I made you tea. But okay. Shall we take a breath?
No, that was good, and I'm glad that a lot of people share those same feelings. It needed to be said. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you got it out.
That's how I be feeling on the inside. I'm sorry. But
I'm glad. I'm glad. I don't know what her name was, but I'm glad she came to visit.
that was Asada. That was Asada. That was Asada Jr.
So no, you are absolutely correct. Um, it is conditioning, and and I try to be mindful of it. I try to really be mindful of it when we're going through things or we're having conversations. So I definitely try to be mindful. And if I never heard you before, I heard you just now. 'Cause I ain't never heard that side. I ain't never heard that part. So, but I heard you. I felt that. I heard you and I felt that. And I appreciate you for saying that. I appreciate you for just wanting something different for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that communication is what is everything. Um, and maybe if you said that whole little segment right there, if you said that years ago, it'd have been nothing else to say.
Well, this
So
has been good.
I appreciate that. I thank her for coming to visit, or whoever. I thank them.
Welcome.
I thank them for coming to visit and getting that. So, just respecting the boundaries and having open communication definitely will be the key to bridging the gaps between the generations and many more generations to come. What, what tradition, what tradition, if any, do you feel that you will take into with your child?
Oh,
Oh,
there's so many. I think all I can ask for from my child is to be considerate, to have integrity, to be aware, self-aware, to trust and love themselves internally, to trust and love nature, take care of nature, um, understand their responsibility and their duty and their role, and understanding that it is their responsibility to know what their purpose is and is their responsibility to express their purpose as they see fit and be confident. And those are all things that I get from you. So follow your curiosity. Those are 9 things that I get from you that I do that I will give to my child. And I don't think as long as my kid has those values, I'm gonna have expectations, but I probably keep them to myself because I have an idea of what I think works best for you. Because I'm that kind of person. I feel like I always know what's best for everyone, which I know is not true, and I'm still working on that. And that's not just parents, that's people in general. Everybody thinks they know what's better for somebody else. Um,
ooh, I felt like that was a jab. Ooh, uppercut. Okay.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Let me stop talking. 'Cause I do got a meeting in a little bit, but yeah, those are some traditions that I get from you that I instill in myself that I will pass on. Just focus on making a good, not making, focus on supporting and creating environment to cultivate a good human and not a good child and not an obedient child, but a good human who can trust me. And I think having my child trust and having my child ear and having my child believe they can come to me with anything is more important than a child who is devoutly obedient to me.
That's
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that because I think back to like a conversation you and I had. Not this last thing I'm gonna say because my phone is blowing up. Um, that I remember what while I didn't articulate the things that I wanted from you or why we were doing certain things, like I kept you in the political arena. I kept you
Mhm.
around people. I kept you around important people, people who was gonna make a difference. I showed you how to build relationship, how to keep and maintain relationship. So that was, even though I wasn't saying those things, that's what I was doing. And now in your adult life, you look back and you could remember being in all of those places, saying, "Oh, that's why we were doing it. That's why instead of me going out to play, I had to be canvassing somebody's streets for somebody politics."
And you
So
trying to figure out why I just went off like that. Cause you? What are we talking about right now?
yeah, and there you have it.
Literally. I appreciate you so much. This is good. I feel like we might have to do a part 2. We'll see.
Okay, well, thank you. Let me answer all of these calls.
No, honestly, forgive me for looking down at my laptop. I was as you were speaking in that laptop, but all right, y'all. We'll see you in the next
Well,
one.
much conversation. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. It was great, and I will see you later.